Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be breaking down Lazarus Volume 4. Now, just a heads up, this is going to be the end of my Lazarus coverage for now. I really want to cover some other books and don't want to devote another 4 weeks to Lazarus at this time. So if you're going to keep reading Lazarus where my videos end, next you want to pick up Lazarus Volume 5 and then a mini-series called X plus 66 and then Lazarus Volume 6 and 7, and that will take you up to current. And right now, Lazarus is on hiatus, so the story has not completed, but I think one day Greg Rucka will get around to it, and we'll get a finale to this series. And maybe when that happens, I'll return to the book and continue my coverage of it. But for now, going to be covering something else. Next week, I'm going to cover part 2 of The Nice House on the Lake, which is a video I did part 1 of over a year ago. And people have really been asking for me to do part 2, so I'm finally going to get around to it. And then after that, I've decided to cover, finally, some Hellboy to coincide with the movie coming out in September, I believe. So I'm really looking forward to diving into the world of Hellboy. So stay tuned for all those projects coming up. But in this video, right now, let's dive into Lazarus Volume 4 and see where the story continues. Last volume ended with the Hawk family declaring war on the Carlyle family, and Jacob Hawk spitting poison in Malcolm Carlyle's face. So now we will see the repercussions of that and the beginning of the war. Lazarus Volume 4, Poison, written by Greg Rucka, art by Michael Lark, colors by Santi Arcas. Lazarus Issue 16, Interlude, Mercy. The war between Carlyle and Hawk has started, and we will see our first glimpses of this war during this interlude following Sister Bernard. Sister Bernard was a nun we met back in Volume 2, who helped out the Barrett family. Sister Bernard is part of a traveling group of nuns called the Sisters of the Order of Mercy. They traveled the various territories, Carlyle, Hawk, Bittner, and Moray, providing medical care, although secretly Sister Bernard also acts as a spy for Carlyle, so she reports back anything she learns in the other territories. So in the opening days of the war here, we see Sister Bernard traveling with her fellow nuns in Hawk territory. The Hawk soldiers are on high alert, so they pay extra attention to make sure the nuns aren't smuggling anything nefarious. As Sister Bernard travels through Hawk territory, she does not like the way the waste there are treated. The waste there are fed so many drugs and given so much propaganda that they don't know how the world really works, and they blindly follow Hawk. In the Hawk territory, there is Hawk, there is the Citizen, and there is nothing else. When war is officially declared between Hawk and Carlyle, Sister Bernard does not take the news well. She worries about the plight of most regular citizens. Sister Bernard, when not providing medical care, is doing some of her Carlyle spy duties. One of Sister Bernard's contacts, a woman named Victoria Aguilar, codename Earthworm, wished to meet with Sister Bernard. She was currently located in the Hawk territory of Havana, Cuba. Eventually, after Sister Bernard completed some of her travels, she managed to get on a boat, headed to Havana. And once in Havana, she met her contact, Victoria, in an old abandoned church. Victoria explained that Hawk developed a new kind of virus, dubbed H7N11, and the virus is going to be very dangerous, so it needs to be dealt with. Victoria explains that she, herself, is the sample. She has been infected with the virus. The virus is asleep though, and it'll stay asleep for another 70 hours or so. But then Victoria will become patient 0. Victoria jokes, "How's that for motivation to extract me?" Sister Bernard asked about a treatment or a cure. Victoria explained that all the information needed is on a microdrive she has here. It is what they were developing. Sister Bernard demands the microdrive, but Victoria replies, "Not on your life. Not until I'm safe. Not until I'm out of here." And as they are having this discussion in this abandoned church, all of a sudden a whole bunch of Hawk soldiers storm in, and they begin opening fire. Victoria fires back on them. Victoria shoots and kills one of the soldiers. One of the soldiers shoots her. Victoria goes down. Sister Bernard, she cowers on the floor with her hands up. As the remaining soldier is going to shoot Sister Bernard, Victoria, still hanging on to life, shoots and kills that soldier. Victoria, she is then bleeding out, moments away from death. Sister Bernard goes to check in on Victoria, and Victoria injects Sister Bernard with the same virus that she was infected with from Hawk. Sister Bernard also has the microdrive with the instructions for the cure on it. And now, with this information, Sister Bernard needs to get out of here and needs to get this information to Carlyle or one of Carlyle's allies. Sister Bernard left the church and she began running. She decided to activate a beacon. The beacon was hidden in her jumpsuit precisely for emergencies like this. The beacon may help her get extracted from Havana, along with the important information she just acquired. Sister Bernard was trying to lay low until her extractor came to pick her up. But then a whole bunch of Hawk soldiers arrived, a whole squad of them, and they pointed their guns on Sister Bernard. The nun got on her knees and she prepared for death. She did not think she was going to escape. But then one of the Lazarus super soldiers arrived, and it wiped out all the Hawk soldiers here. And finally, once all the Hawk soldiers here were dead, the Lazarus removed their helmet and revealed themselves to be Joachim Murray. Murray, an ally to Carlyle in the war. The beacon that Sister Bernard activated brought Joachim Murray here. Joachim introduces himself and says, "Sister Bernard, my name is Joachim Murray. You are safe now. We really should be going." Lazarus, issue 17, Poison, part 1 of 5. Over in Duluth, Minnesota, we see Casey Solomon along with various other Carlyle soldiers, and they are engaging in some firefighting with some Hawk troops. Elsewhere, over in the southern Sierra Nevadas at the Carlyle compound, we see Forever and Bethany Carlyle watching over their father, who is still very sick from the poisoning he endured last volume. Forever goes to talk with her dad and says, Daddy, I don't know what to do. The war isn't going well. You planned for this, I know you did. You had a plan. What do I do, Daddy? Tell me what I should do." Elsewhere in that very same compound, we see Sonia Bittner, the Lazarus of the Bittner family. The Bittner family has since transitioned from being an ally of Hawk to now being an ally of Carlyle. Sonia Bittner, she is recovering, but she is kind of sick. As when the Bittners were allied with the Hawks, she was taking various medicines that came from the Hawk side. But now that they are no longer allies, she needs to go through some replacement therapy and switch to some Carlyle medication. And unfortunately for Sonia, her body is still reacting to what's left of Hawk's various treatments in her system, but the side effects are slowly diminishing. Later on, in Puget Sound, in a Situation War Room, a General Diego Valeri is briefing Forever Carlyle, Arthur Cohn, and new acting head of the Carlyle family, Stephen Carlyle. With Malcolm incapacitated from the poisoning and Stephen being the eldest child, he is now in charge. General Valeri reports if they lose Duluth, Minnesota, it would be catastrophic. It would severely mess up their supply lines, and without Duluth, any attempt on their part to counterattack into Hawk territory will be impaired. Worse, if Hawk gained a secure port on Lake Superior, he would be able to resupply and recover in preparation for an invasion. Worst case scenario has Hawk in Denver by summer, and if that happens, the war is lost. Stephen Carlyle questions, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Forever explains, General Valeri is saying we would be fighting the war on 3 fronts. Hawk to the west, Vasilovka to the north, and Murray or D'Souza to the south. The general then says that if they can clear Hawk's air defense, they can resupply and reinforce their troops. In the meantime, they should continue to reinforce their position northeast of the city, and he suggests that they send Forever Carlyle in. Normally, Malcolm Carlyle himself would have to authorize something like that, a Lazarus being put out into the field, but with him now sick, Stephen is going to have to make the call. After the briefing is over, the General and Arthur Cohn leave, and Johanna, who is waiting outside, runs over to ask Forever what was going on. Why wasn't she invited to the briefing? Forever just blows her sister off, saying, "We can catch up later, okay?" This actually kind of pisses Johanna off, Forever just ignoring her. Johanna, she then marches over to Stephen's office, as she wants to talk. Stephen is there with his boyfriend, Ryan. Stephen is doubting himself, saying, "I'm not the man my father is." And Ryan is trying to assure him, saying, "No, you're not. You're better." Johanna, she then walks in and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was a tender moment. Ryan, darling, be a dear and go screw off. I need to have a chat with my brother." Once Ryan is out of the room, Stephen tells his sister, "So, you're at full bitch today." Johanna, angry, says, "Ryan needs to know his place. He's a jumped-up serf who landed in your bed, Stephen, not a member of this family." Stephen asks, what does she want? Johanna, she answers, "I want to help, but you and Forever won't let me. I tried to talk to her, and you know what she did? She blew me off. She's not supposed to be able to do that, Stephen. Tell me what I can do to help. I can meet with Murray if we need to. I can go talk to Carragher or Armitage, whoever. I'll smooth all the feathers. I'm good at that, you know." While they are continuing their conversation, we jump over to Stanford University, and we catch up with Michael Barrett. Michael was a character we met in Volume 2. Him and his family were just waste, but Michael, he showed an aptitude for math and science, so he got lifted to being a serf, and the Carlyles sent him to university to better himself for the betterment of all of Carlisle. Michael, he is actually excelling at Stanford. He is kind of a genius. He's already published some papers and is getting noticed. While he is walking on the campus, he gets interrupted by the dean of the school, Dean Muir. The dean is there with Bethany Carlyle, and she introduces Michael to Bethany. Bethany tells Michael, "Mr. Barrett, the dean here shared your research on rapid in vivo prediction and response in the HLA complex with me. It relates directly to a number of issues I and a colleague are wrestling with currently. Pack a bag. You leave with me in an hour." So Bethany is here because the poison that is affecting her father, Malcolm, well, her and James Mann are having a hard time beating it. And Michael's theoretical paper actually somewhat relates to what they're trying to do, so they want to bring him in to help. Meanwhile, we jump back over to Duluth, Minnesota, to Casey Solomon. Casey is the girlfriend of Michael, and she too got lifted up during Volume 2, and now she has a job in the army. And she is doing quite well in the army that she actually gets called in and is given a promotion to corporal. And she will be heading a small team on a special assignment. Afterwards, Casey goes and meets the rest of her team, and they prepare for a briefing. They wait for about 5 minutes for their lieutenant to come in and lead the briefing, but he never shows. Instead, a special leader comes in. It is Forever Carlyle, here in Duluth. Forever greets them saying, "My name is Commander Forever Carlyle. You belong to me. Together, we are going to secure Duluth and kill every last hawk son of a bitch we find." Lazarus Issue 18, Poison, Part 2 of 5. Forever is storming a building full of hawk soldiers, and she stealthily takes them all down. All while Casey Solomon and her squad are watching through snipers on a building across the street. Back over to the southern Sierra Nevadas at the Carlyle compound. Michael Barrett is being shown around the complex by James Mann. James tells Michael that he should know this facility is top secret. Everything they do here is the tip of the family spear. There are also restricted areas, places where Michael cannot go. And if he tries to enter them, he will be shot. Michael asks, "How do I know when I'm somewhere I shouldn't be?" James answers, "You mean aside from being shot? You'll get a warning." "Alright, time to meet the patient." Michael says, "Look, Dr. Mann, I don't even really know why I'm here." James replies, "You're here because Bethany and I need your help, Michael. You're here to save his life." James then brings Michael into the room where Malcolm is comatose, hooked up to various machines. Michael asks, "How long has he been like this?" James answers, "Almost 3 months. He was poisoned, best we can determine, by a customized toxin created by Jacob Hawk. It's a systemic attack, something adaptive on the genetic level. Hence our interest in your research, specifically the rapid response aspects. This is the best equipped research facility Carlyle has, arguably quite possibly the best in the world." Bethany Carlyle, she jumps in and says, "Tell us what you need, Michael, and you will have it. Just tell us what you need to cure my father." We jump back on over to Duluth. We see Casey Solomon walking by Forever Carlyle. As they are walking, Casey asks, "You don't remember me, do you?" Forever does indeed remember Casey. Forever recites, "Solomon Casey, wasteborn, born on X46, parents deceased, mother on X51, father on X52, raised by paternal grandfather, Solomon Dennis, now ranch foreman with serf privileges in Sonoma, applied to lift, Denver X64, but refused on grounds of medical predisposition, subsequently overturned on merit by my petition. Of course I remember you, Corporal Solomon. We both know what it means to fight despite the pain." Casey lets out a small smile, pleased that Forever remembers her and knows her so well, it seems. We jump on over to Redmond, Washington. Gabriel Mason, the once upon a time right-hand man of Jonah Carlyle and henchman of Johanna Carlyle, is currently being punished, and he is working as a lowly janitor in this Carlyle building. Johanna, she goes over to talk with him and says, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Hello, Mason." Gabriel Mason responds, Miss Carlyle." Johanna replies, "You're angry at me. You think I abandoned you." Gabriel to this says, "I was loyal to you, Miss Carlyle. I was your brother's hand, and I turned on him for you, and this is my reward? So what do you think I feel?" Johanna answers, "I think you feel cheated. I think you want what you had back. And you can have it back, everything and more. But I need you to do something for me first." We jump back over to Stephen Carlyle, who is the acting head of the Carlyle family. He has a video call with the Carlyle's ally, Edgar Murray. The call is a little contentious. If we look at the world map here, Murray is an ally to Carlyle, but they are currently feuding with the family D'Souza in South America, and Edgar Murray is asking for reinforcements. Stephen, not wanting to let their ally down, is in a tough position though. He says, "We're having our own problems with Hawk, Edgar. I'm not sure we have assets to allocate. Have you talked with Carragher in Australia?" Edgar answers, "Carragher has his own problems. Your father had a plan for this contingency, Stephen." Stephen to this says, "I'm sure he did, but unfortunately he didn't share it. Look, Murray is a vital ally, Edgar. We're not going to abandon you. I'm still expecting you and James Carragher here next week to discuss the situation in person. I'm sure we can work everything out." Edgar Murray ends the call by saying, "Of course, and hopefully your father will have recovered by then. Thank you for your time, Stephen." Once the call is over, Stephen feels like he's not doing a good job at this politics stuff. His boyfriend Ryan comes in and comforts him, telling him it'll be okay. We now jump on back over to Duluth. Casey Solomon and her crew, along with Forever, are going through a building, killing everyone inside. Forever is the one doing most of the work. Once all the Hawk enemies are dead, some of the people in Casey's crew are commenting on Forever's prowess, saying, Frickin' hell, you see what she did there? Lazarus, man. We might just live through this. Forever, Casey and the crew take a few moments to rest and recover. While they are resting, Casey is talking to Forever, and Forever, she gets shot in the head by a Hawk sniper that was a few buildings over. So Forever being shot in the head falls down to the ground. Now, being shot in the head is pretty extreme, but it is actually something a Lazarus can recover from. It just takes a few minutes. Although Casey and her crew, after they watch over Forever for a while, become concerned because Forever does not seem to be healing. Something is wrong with her. Lazarus, issue 19, Poison, part 3 of 5. Casey and her fellow soldiers are standing over Forever's body, and they are worried. Casey's yelling, "Who secured the bodies? Who didn't do their frickin' job?" The other soldiers are yelling back, "I secured my area. I cleared my zone. We are so screwed." Another soldier says, "I mean, she's a frickin' Lazarus, right? She's gonna get up, right? That's what she's gonna do. She's gonna get up, right?" Back over at the Carlyle's base, they are monitoring Forever's vital signs, and they see that she got shot, and she does not seem to be healing. Bethany, talking to James, says her healing factor, it should have kicked in immediately, but it's not activating. James confirms negative respiratory activity, negative neurological activity. Christ, her core temperature is plummeting. I think we've lost her. Back over to Casey and her crew. They've stood over Forever's body for a while now, but it seems like she's really gone. Well, Casey and the others have to continue on with their mission. Casey says, "The commander's map has enemy positions. We know what to avoid. We push forward. We've got a chance of completing this. Move out." We jump over to Stephen Carlyle's office. He gets a video call from his sister, Beth. Beth tells Stephen, "Something's happened in Duluth. We just lost biosigns on Forever. Something went wrong. None of the induction triggers are firing. I need to know if we're initiating termination protocols. Stephen, I need to know how to proceed." Stephen, frustrated, says, "I don't even know what the termination protocols are. I still can't access Father's files. How did this happen, Beth? How did this frickin' happen?" Beth, now with tears in her eyes, says, "The termination protocol phase 1. The body's recovered to determine what went wrong." Stephen yells, "Her body's in frickin' Duluth, Bethany." Oh my god, we're gonna lose Duluth and lose the war. I need to inform General Valeri. I need to inform Johanna. I gotta call you back. We jump on over to Johanna. She's in a restaurant talking with Gabriel Mason. Gabriel's complaining to Johanna, saying, "I was promised a reward, I seem to remember. Instead, I got exile." Johanna, uncaring to this, says, "You are such a drama queen, Mason. So you work as a janitor for a while. Jonah ended up dead." Johanna, she wants Gabriel to do another mission for her, a very risky one. Johanna, she's feeling upset that she's being left out of the important decisions in the family. So once again, she's plotting some sort of double cross that would put her in a favorable position. Johanna wants Gabriel to go to her family's base and retrieve a certain girl there and bring her back to Johanna. The comic is not telling us exactly at this moment who exactly Johanna wants. Gabriel, he questions, "What do I say if I get stopped?" "And I will be stopped." Johanna answers, "Well, tell anyone the truth. You tell whoever asks that I wanted to meet her, and that I've sent you to escort her to me." Gabriel questions, "And if she refuses?" Johanna says, "She won't. Not when I tell her I sent you. She'll agree and you'll fly the two of you to Vancouver where I'll be waiting. And then we'll auction her off to the highest bidder and join the family of the winner. You really should eat your steak, Mason. It's getting cold." We jump on back over to the Carlyle's base. We see Sonia Bittner is still recovering there. She is doing some training and trying to regain her strength. She is also taking the various pill regiment that the Carlyles are giving her. Sonia asks, so many pills. Does Forever take these too? Marisol Ocampo answers yes, since she was very young. It's part of her treatment regimen. Sonia says, oh, very good. Bottoms up then, yes? And she pops all the pills. Back in Duluth, Minnesota, Casey and her squad are stealthily moving through the streets, trying to avoid Hawk troops. They eventually get to the outside of their objective, and they take a moment to regroup. Meanwhile, over to where Forever was supposedly dead. A whole bunch of Hawk soldiers have now entered the building, and they are searching the premises, and they find Forever's dead body there. They do not immediately recognize her as the Lazarus of the Carlyle family. Back in the Carlyle's compound, James Mann is talking with Michael Barrett. Michael tells James Mann that he made sure that Sonia Bittner took all the pills that he requested. As Michael keeps talking on, James, he's deep in thought, and suddenly he has an epiphany. He figures out why Forever's healing factor is messed up and not working as it should. Forever must have stopped taking her frickin' pills. So her regenerative functioning was all messed up. It would still work though, it would just be delayed. We now jump back over to Forever. Forever, she has secretly stopped taking all the pills that the Carlyles need her to take. She stopped taking these pills because she has slowly been trusting her family less. By not taking the pills, Forever has been able to gain more free will. But some of the pills were also good for her and helped with her regenerative abilities. So by not taking the pills, her healing factor was not working as efficiently as it should. But it still works, it is just delayed. So as these Hawk soldiers are inspecting Forever's body, all of a sudden, her healing factor finally kicks in, and she regains consciousness. And when she regains consciousness, she sees the Hawk troops in front of her, and she kills them all. Back in the Carlyle compound, James Mann is ecstatic as he sees Forever's vital signs returning. He exclaims to Michael, her neurological processes are reforming, her personality, her memories. She's back, Michael. Find Bethany and bring her here. Michael says, I don't even know where she is. James says, check her quarters, Zone Gamma. Someone will direct you. I'll stay here. Hurry. And as Michael is going to go find Beth, he passes by Gabriel Mason, who is here for some sort of nefarious plan headed by Johanna. Lazarus issue 20, Poison, part 4 of 5. Over at the Carlyle's compound, close advisor to the family, Arthur Cohn, has a secret meeting with Johanna. He tells Johanna how the war is going, how they almost lost Forever, and now Edgar Murray is potentially going to pull out of their alliance, which would be devastating. Murray is coming in tomorrow for a meeting, and Stephen needs to reassure him that their alliance is still strong. Johanna tells Arthur, well, I'm sure my brother will reassure them. Arthur replies, we both know that Stephen won't. He's not capable, Johanna. Stephen has many skills and his own brilliance. If the situation were different, were we not at war, he would more than serve in your father's absence. Arthur is suggesting that they push Stephen out, and Johanna takes the lead as the acting head of the family, as Johanna would make for a better leader, especially during wartime. Johanna tells Arthur Stephen will not willingly step down, not after he's been waiting for this for so long. We'd never convince him. Arthur then hands Johanna some documents, some leverage she can use over Stephen to make him step down. Arthur tells her, talk to him, do it soon, Johanna. This family's survival may depend on it. Back in Duluth, Casey and her squad kill a few more Hawk soldiers and they progress onward. They make their way into an abandoned building. They find some Hawk soldier gear. They want one of their own, a Jorge Pineda, to put on the Hawk soldier uniform so that he can sneak into where they need to go next. Back over to the Carlyle compound, Johanna goes over to talk to Stephen's boyfriend, Ryan. She is going to use the information that Arthur Cohn gave her and talk with Ryan and get him to make Steven step down. It turns out that Ryan is sick, some sort of illness that will eventually kill him. It currently gives him tremors right now. Steven hasn't noticed anything yet, though. Ryan and Steven have been together for 20 years, although they were forbidden to marry as Steven had to be kept available for a possible political union in the future. After Ryan and Johanna discuss a bit, Ryan asks Johanna, "Are you going to tell Steven that I'm sick?" Johanna answers, "No, I'm not, Ryan. What I'm going to do is make you a deal." Ryan, he then leaves, ready to talk to Steven and convince him to step down so Johanna can take over. As Ryan leaves, Johanna gets on a phone call and talks to some of the security in the Carlyle compound. Now that she is going to be in charge of the Carlyle family, she no longer wants to go through with the plan that she had Gabriel Mason start. So she is going to screw him over. Johanna phones Carlyle security and says, "I would like to report a security breach regarding an illegally modified chipset. I need all permissions related to it to be revoked immediately." Moments later, Marisol Ocampo gets a message on her phone relating to this security breach. Marisol goes into the hall, and she finds Gabriel Mason there. Marisol tells him, "You're not supposed to be here." Gabriel, who at this point does not know Johanna changed her mind and is now screwing him over, thinks his security clearances are still working. So Gabriel tells Marisol, "I've got the right authorization. My name's Gabriel Mason. Johanna Carlyle sent me." Marisol to this says, "Miss Carlyle granted you permission?" Gabriel says, "Yes, she did." Marisol to this says, "Well, that's interesting because she doesn't have privileges to grant access to this area of the facility." Gabriel, realizing he is now kind of screwed, attempts to pull out his gun. Marisol wrestles it away from him. The two of them fight for a bit, but eventually Marisol gets the upper hand. She kicks Gabriel to the floor, she pulls out her gun and aims it at him. Gabriel, he yells out, "No, wait! She sent me! She sent me!" Marisol does not care and she opens fire on Gabriel. Back over to Casey Solomon and her crew. This part of their mission is to blow up this anti-aircraft base. By doing so, it will allow Carlyle to send in more air support. It is heavily guarded by Hawk soldiers, though. Casey and her crew open fire on the Hawk soldiers, while the other member in their crew, Jorge Pineda, who is wearing a Hawk uniform, he sneaks over to the anti-aircraft guns, and he places a bomb on it. He sets a timer for 2 minutes and then he retreats. Casey and her crew are still continuing with suppressing fire. Eventually, the timer on the bomb goes off, successfully destroying the anti-aircraft guns. Casey and her crew retreat, and they manage to meet back up with Jorge Pineda. But more Hawk soldiers are charging them, and then a Hawk tank arrives. Although the Hawk tank seems to be purposely avoiding Casey and her crew, and it opens fire on all the Hawk soldiers that were rushing them. All the Hawk soldiers here are dead, and then the top of the tank pops open, and Forever Carlyle exits the tank, saying, "Corporal Solomon, may I have my sword back, please?" So with Forever alive again, she has rejoined with Casey to help them finish their mission. Lazarus issue 21, Poison, part 5 of 5. At the Carlyle compound, Johanna Carlyle is now in charge. She is waiting to receive the heads of the Carragher and Murray families as they need to discuss their alliance and the state of the war. Meanwhile, Bethany Carlyle and Michael Barrett are still working on Malcolm Carlyle and trying to cure him. Eventually, Michael has a breakthrough. Michael suspects that the poison that Hawk infected Malcolm with was tied to the Carlyle's specific genome, and that Hawk most likely used Jonah's DNA to program the toxin. If Michael is right, then they just may be able to finally reverse the effects of it. Back over to Forever Carlyle, Casey Solomon, and the others in their crew. they still need to knock down various air defense buildings. There are specifically 2 more buildings they need to take down. Their plan is to take control of one of the buildings and use some of the armaments in one building to launch a missile at the other. So Forever and the others start storming the Hawk military compound. They kill a whole bunch of Hawk soldiers along the way. And while they are performing their mission, back at the Carlyle compound, Johanna Carlyle is sitting down with Edgar Murray and Lachlan James Carragher. Johanna tells her 2 allies, "Yes, it looks like we're losing the war, but that's about to change." They then start live watching what is going on in Duluth with Forever and Casey Solomon leading an attack. Forever, she storms her way into a Hawk bunker, killing everyone inside, and she eventually takes over. From inside the bunker, Forever starts turning off some of the air defense equipment, and she starts setting up one Hawk position to fire on another. Over at the Carlyle compound, as they are watching this all go down in real time, James Carragher is concerned. He says that Forever doesn't have enough time to do it manually, and that they are going to lose the bunker before she can launch whatever missiles she's trying to launch. Johanna replies, "You underestimate my sister." Back in Duluth, while Forever is trying to use one Hawk position to aim at another and completely wipe out the anti-air support that Hawk has, Casey and the rest of the squad are trying to keep Hawk soldiers back so that they do not interrupt. They start getting overwhelmed though and begin retreating closer to where Forever is. But eventually Forever succeeds with what she was trying to do, and the Hawk air defenses are shut off. Forever, she then radios into Carlyle troops and tells them to come in with their planes and bomb the bunker they are in. Forever, she then tells Casey and the rest of their squad to get into this bunker with her. They seal the door behind themselves, then the Carlyle planes drop their bombs, and the whole bunker explodes. Back in the Carlyle compound, Johanna tells the others, "The tide just turned, gentlemen. If you'd like to stay for dinner, we can now discuss where we're sailing next." Back in Duluth, with their air support now freely able to operate, Carlyle troops have taken over the city. They find the bunker that was exploded, the one that Forever and Casey were inside of. Forever and Casey and the others are still alive in the wreckage of that bunker, and they are recovered and brought to safety. Meanwhile, back at the Carlyle compound, Michael's theory on how to cure Malcolm Carlyle was correct, and it is starting to work. Malcolm is starting to get better. Bethany, she hugs Michael and says, "He's stable, Michael. You did it." And while they are celebrating, Marisol Ocampo talks with James Mann about an unrelated matter. Marisol tells James, "I can't find her, James. She's gone walkabout." James replies, "What? How?" Marisol says, "Do I look like I know? She's a frickin' Lazarus." It was only a matter of time before she slipped the leash. "I'm initiating a lockdown." James answers, "I'll activate telemetry. She can't have gone far." Now, who are James and Marisol talking about? As Forever is in Duluth, so it's not her. Now, we do see elsewhere in the compound, Sonia Bittner is training, although it does not make sense that they would be worried where Sonia is. Well, we shall now see a big twist in the story coming. Sonia Bittner, she is training with her sword when someone walks over to her. That someone replies, "Cool, you've got a sword too. Wait, I know you. You're Sonia Bittner. Do you want to spar? I only ever get to spar with Marisol, which is okay, I guess, but I know all her moves. My name's Forever, by the way. It's finally nice to meet you." Who is this little girl? Well, it turns out she is a younger version of Forever Carlyle. She is version 8, and the family has been secretly raising and training her for the last several years. The Forever Carlyle we've been following this whole story has been version 7, and her and version 8 have not known about each other this entire time. And with this big twist cliffhanger ending, we end Volume 4. Alright, so that was Lazarus Volume 4. I thought the interlude Sister Bernard issue was kind of boring, maybe not the most exciting way to kick off the war, but once the war did get going, that was pretty fun, watching Forever and Casey Solomon and their squad trying to succeed on this dangerous mission. And we also had some of the political intrigue back home with Johanna Carlyle and Stephen Carlyle, as well as their allies, Edgar Murray and Carragher. So that was pretty exciting too. I thought a really cool moment was when Forever was out in the field and she gets shot and seemingly dies, and she doesn't come back to life because Forever has secretly stopped taking her pills because she is distrusting of the family and she wants to learn more. But there was now some negative repercussions by not taking those pills, and that her healing factor is all out of whack. But eventually she did heal and come back to life, and then she completed her mission. So yeah, all that was very exciting. We also had Malcolm Carlyle being sick and Michael Barrett helping cure him near the end of this volume. So Malcolm Carlyle is going to be, coming back into the story a bit soon. And then we also had this major twist in the story where we learn there is another Forever Carlyle out there in the world, and she is just a little girl. So the Carlyles have grown themselves a new Forever and not told the other Forever. And eventually, they're trying to make sure they have a replacement lined up just in case. So really messed up and really interesting swerve in the story there. So yeah, I'm going to give this volume an 8 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. This is the end of my Lazarus coverage for now, but I may return to it in the future. But next week, I will be back covering The Nice House on the Lake, which will combine my original Volume 1 video and Volume 2, which I am working on now. So I will see you all then there for that.